17th day of Adar 1, corresponding to the 17th day of February. Today's breakfast graciously sponsored by the Glazer family, Le'ilui Nishmat, David ben Zahava Glazer alav shalom. In answer to the words of Berachot of Torah and Torah, his neshama have an Atiyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Additionally, today's class graciously sponsored by Rabbi Shaul Kassin from the Westville Synagogue, as well as Mr. Ralph Braha, honoring the rabbi and the congregation. So Be'ezat Hashem, may all be blessed with great beracha and aslaha. Amen. Interesting concept, the Ma'alin Bakodesh. The Gemara in Masechet Menachem teaches us a very valuable lesson of how a person must always look to increase in their godly connection. What does it mean? 2 nights ago, we learned in the Puede the importance of a person becoming a Hassid. Now, we clarify in that class that what the Puede is referring to is not talking about the way we understand in our generation and for the past 200 or 300 years the concept of the Hasidic movement. That is not what he's talking about. The Puede is talking about how the person needs to go the extra mile in order to develop a stronger bonding with Akadosh Baruch Hu. And this is something that we need to understand, that is an important area of Avodat Hashem. What does it mean? We know that Hashem has many ways of managing the world and dealing with our lives individually and collectively. Sometimes Hashem is with Hesed. Hashem develops a relationship with us through kindness. That's most of the time, I like to say. I'm willing to even say 100% of the time. Occasionally, there is a little hiccup. That's called Midat Hadin, the attribute of judgment. But, as we say in our daily prayers, every day in the morning, I said this to someone, the other night. Actually, I said it to the class. I told them the story that the Gemara writes in Masechet Berachot. The Gemara writes in Masechet Mehila. תגיד להם שהכנו כיסאות בשביל אנשים. If they want to sit, the family wants to sit, tell them they're welcome to sit. We welcome everybody, right? ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. So I share with the Kahal Kadosh the Gemara in Masechet Berachot that tells us that one day, 1 year in Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol of that time was Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, fascinating story about him. Unfortunately, the way he left the world, he was one of the 10 martyrs executed by the Roman Empire, together with Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Akiva, and many other great tzaddikim of that generation. But imagine yourself, you are the Kohen Gadol by the name of Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, and I'm trying to control myself of not saying more than I want to say, because I'm tempted to say more things about him in a good way. But I give you a free sample. He was the human being that had a direct connection with the Malachim. We all have it. Mimini Michael, Mismoli Gabriel, but he had a special pass that the Malachim and him had a certain relationship. Some of the time I'll tell you where that came from. So now he's the Kohen Gadol. And he comes to the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies. And what the Gemara says, that he sees Veraiti, that's what the language of the Gemara says. I saw like the form of Hashem. I saw something. Veraiti akatrikel. Ko amar Hashem Elokim. God says to him, Ishmael beni barecheni. Ishmael, my son, give me a blessing. If you come to me as a human being, right? Or I come to you for a blessing. As humans, we can say blessings. Be happy, be healthy, have shalom bayit, have parnasa, have a long life. Easy. But when it comes to God, what are you going to say to him? Have parnasa? You want to buy a Sefer Torah raffle? Maybe I'll say that to God. You know what? Buy the whole project, you know. So we go to number 13 already. Okay? But be'emet, what are you going to say to God? Have shalom bayit? Have a lot of children? So listen to the beracha that Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol gave Hashem. Is something of our daily prayers. Is in the Shaharit. There is a part of the Shaharit known as Korbanot. Have you heard of this? Hazaku Baruch, Yere Hassid, Yere Sadiq. I'm so happy of the answer. So what's the question? We say it every day. It's part of our daily prayers. The Hazan begins, Kadesh li Hashem Melech. But before that, there is the Korbanot. Batitpalel Hana, the Akedah, Shema Israel, the Ketoret, Ezehu Mekoman, etc. But right after the Akedah, listen to this sentence. And most of this comes from this story that I'm sharing with the Kahal now. And it says, Ribono shel Olam, Master of the universe, כמו שכבש אברהם אבינו את רחמיו לעשות רצונך ולבב שלם. Like Abraham Avinu was able to overcome his compassion to fulfill your will. What does it mean? In plain English, it means the Akedat Ishaq. Excuse me. It wasn't only a challenge for Ishaq. It was a mega challenge to Abraham. So part of the heart of Abraham could have said, how am I going to do this to my son? I was waiting for him 100 years old when he was born. And after 37 years later, you want to take him away? But what did Abraham Avinu do? Put these feelings and emotion in the back burner. God is asking me to do something.
I do.
I'm a good soldier. I know I got you excited. Wait till I start singing. Okay? So it goes and it says, Ken ichbeshu rahamecha et ka'asecha. Let your compassion overcome your anger. Meaning to say that if God's anger needs to get activated because of our misbehavior, don't let that to happen. Bring more compassion. Try to extinguish the fire. Ve'gol rahamecha al middotecha, and let reveal your compassion upon any one of your character traits. Betitnaheg imanu Hashem Elokeinu, and conduct yourself with us, God, God of our fathers, b'midat ha'chesed u'b'midat ha'rahamim, with the attribute of compassion and the attribute of mercy, v'tikanes lanu lifnim mishurat hadin, and give us the benefit of the doubt, yani give us an easy pass. This sentence that I just read is the blessing that Ishmael Kohen Gadol gave to Hashem. What was God's reaction? The Gemara concludes, Bene'ena li berosho. God nodded his head in acceptance of the request of Rabbi Ishmael Kohen Gadol. Now, let's talk about becoming a Hassid. Let's clarify. I'm not referring to the Hasidic movement. There are a lot of groups, right, in the Hasidic movements. You have a Satmer, you have a Lubavitch, you have a Breslev, you have Tosh, you have a Bells, Kasho, Sanz, Vishnitz. You have a lot of different groups. And I only gave you the Gur, obviously. I gave you a handful of them. Probably there are 20 more, 30 more worldwide. And each one has a peculiar tradition and a different dress code than the other. Some of them wear black socks on Shabbat. Some of them wear white socks on Shabbat. Some of them wear a special fur hat known as a shtreimel or a spodik. Some of them wear a flat hat or a high top hat. Different dress codes is part of the uniform. It tells you more or less what tradition they follow, because it's not only the dress code, it's actually different minhagim, which are usually above and beyond what the halacha requests. That's why it's called Hassid. The word Hassid comes from the Lashon Hesed. Hesed, kindness. God gives us things in our life not because we are deserving them. Because the moment that we believe that we are deserving or entitled, that's where our emunah starts becoming a bit shaky. I don't deserve a thing, as the song says. I'm sure you know this song. There is a song that says, I don't deserve a thing. I don't deserve a thing. I don't deserve a thing. There's a song. I'm not kidding you. You know, the music and I have a good relationship. Okay? Even a song was made on the class that I just started to give you by Abraham Farid. Known Abraham Fried.
No, Farid.
I know. I'm doing a Farid for you, so you're happy. Okay? He wrote a song. Tanye Amar Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha. That's how this Gemara became famous. If this Gemara was famous among those who learn Gemara daily, this song put this part of the Gemara on the top 10. Back then, talking about the late 80s, that's when this song was written. Right? That's the background of the song. Now, so what do we understand then? If I don't deserve a thing, and everything that I have is out of the Hesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let me ask you a question. I'm going to bring a simple example. Okay? Let's say that you drive, let's say, a middle of the road car. Let's call them Lexus. Lexus Pashut. Lexus Pashut. Okay? Simple.
Luxury.
Okay? Not anymore. But okay. Okay, let's say you drive a Toyota Avalon. You're happy now? Okay. Now, why do you drive a Toyota Avalon? I'm not sure if they're still alive yet.
I do.
Okay. Why don't you drive a Toyota Corolla? Cheaper.
Because it's too small.
Okay. Drive the Camry. That's the bit in between.
The Camry is the king of them all.
Okay. Do you work for Toyota by any chance? You're promoting it. Okay? Let's be honest here. Now, it gets us to the same destination. But Borei Olam says, you know what? You want a Toyota Camry, you want a Toyota Avalon, I'll let you have it. Where that came from? That's the Hesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows the person to have it. Because the moment that the person will not be able to have it, a few things can happen. Lack of affordability, repo, or just became too expensive. So there are ways that Hashem maneuvers. You live in an apartment. I'm not going to ask you where you live. Where is it written that you must live waterfront unit? Nowhere. It's written that you need to live next to the synagogue. That's it. But what Hashem gives you the opportunity to buy in a nice building, to be able to afford it, to be able to wake up in the morning and you say, Modeh ani lefanecha, and you look at the water, where that comes from? From where it comes from? That comes from the Hassid that Hashem gives us extra than what we need. Because at the end of the day, as the Mishnah writes, when a person comes to the world, we come empty-handed. When the person leaves the world, you leave empty-handed. So what do you take with yourself? Mizvot and ma'asim tovim and the Torah and the Hesed and the Tzedakah that you did. So the Pelei Yoes says, if this is how kind and generous Hashem is with us, why can we reciprocate to Him? Reciprocate in the way we live. In the way, when I mean the way we live means not, as the example I brought in the class was, for example, not getting by with the minimum requirement. Sometimes people say, what is the least that I need to do to fulfill the mitzvah? That's okay, I'm back. It worked. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I'm back. It worked. Thank you for your patience. So it says the Gemara, Ma'alin Bakodesh. What the 20 minutes that I gave you introduction is just to understand these two words of the Gemara of today. Two words. Ma'alin Bakodesh. When it comes to spirituality, try to do better. Ve'enan moridin. And don't look for ways to escape your spiritual responsibility. It's like the mashal I brought the other night was a person goes to school. You go to school. What is a passing grade in school or in college? C. But what's the best grade? A plus. So if you take a C, okay, you pass. But it's yani borderline. A plus or B plus or even A minus, it means that you put the time and the effort and the dedication to excel. So if we do this for financial, physical, materialistic and educational life, why can't we try to excel in our godly relationship, in our Avodat Hashem? That's the meaning of becoming a Hassid of God. Forget about the groups. Forget about the dress code. Don't change. You look very elegant. Okay? I'm not sure about you, because you have a super cool jacket today. So elegant is pashut. You are super cool. Okay? But forget about that. It's nothing to do with the hisoniyut. It has nothing to do with the external appearance of the person. It has to do in our godly relationship from the heart. And why do I say the heart? Because that's the Gemara's answer. Rahamana liba ba'ir. 3 words. God looks for the heart. There is another song about that. Look inside to the heart of the Jew. Open up its many doors. That's also what I'm free.
Wow.
I'm a good guy. I know a lot. I'm a bit humble. That's why I don't display. But bottom line, it's a nice song. Because sometimes people judge another Jew externally. Externally. And God says, the external aspect of the body is only a physical shell. I want to see the heart. And that's why there is a pasuk in Perashat Kitabo. Perashat Kitabo in Safra Devarim. I believe that's Perashat that says, Umaltem et orlat levavchem. Circumcise your heart. Do the circumcision to your heart. Now, what does it mean, circumcision of the heart? We always heard, Merit Milah. Right? Milah. What, you're going to do Milah to your heart? It's not open heart surgery. But you know how you circumcise your heart?
Feelings.
By connecting with Hashem. Like the Berit Milah. What is the Berit Milah? The Berit Milah is taking the foreskin that covers that body part and you cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the skin called? The one that you remove? Orla. Orla. What the pasuk says in Kitabo, Umaltem, circumcise, et orlat levavchem, the cover of your heart. What does it mean, the cover of my heart? Short answer, it means the blockage, the spiritual block that doesn't allow Torah and godliness penetrate the heart. If the heart is clear, everything works beautiful. That's why, if you remember the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that tells us, Hamisha Talmidim ayu Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan had 5 special students, and he asked them, give me a tip for life. One said, Ain Tova. Have a bountiful, pleasant, generous eye. Hazak u'baruch. Other one says, Haver Tov. Be a good friend. Other one said, Shachen Tov. Be a good neighbor. It sounds like State Farm commercial. Okay, be a good neighbor. Okay? Then another one says, Haro'et Hanolad. Have vision. Don't say, this is the end of the tunnel, the wall. You gotta see behind. And the 5th one says, Lev Tov, a good heart. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, from all of the 5, I select Lev Tov, a good heart. Comes Rabbeinu Obadiah of Bartenura, the famous commentator of the Mishnah, and it says, you know why the heart was given the top position from the 5 ones given, even though all of them are given. Because if you have a good eye, you're a student of Abraham Avinu. That's what the Mishnah writes. Ain Tova. If you're a good friend, Hazak u'baruch, you influence your friend to do good. Shachen, the same thing. If you have vision, you can make decisions today based on 20 years from now. That's the message of that statement. it says that when you make a decision, and I'm not talking about I'm going to have the tangerine or I'm going to have a banana. That's not the decision that I'm referring to. But I'm saying a person needs to make a decision. Marriage, where they're going to live, city where they're going to live, community that they're going to be part. Don't just limit yourself to what's happening today. Try to see above and beyond to understand that decisions today have side effects. But left off, says Rabino Batya, that from the heart, all the good behavior, good mindset, and the midot tovot emanate from the heart of the person. And that's why the Torah says sometimes the heart has a blockage. And God forbid, I'm not referring a physical blockage, but a spiritual blockage. The Zohar Kadosh explains that the neshama, the soul, our living essence of life, also needs to be dressed. Like the body gets dressed, the neshama also has malbushim, has garments. The only difference is that the garments of the neshama has nothing to do with spending money on clothing. The dress code of the neshama is our spiritual, godly behavior. Every mitzvah we do, a nice marking. Every avon we do is a stain. Imagine yourself, I have a white shirt. Yes, thank God. And suddenly, I'm drinking something, let's say coffee or tea, and it falls right in front. I'm not going to be happy until I'm going to clean it. And if I'm not able to clean it, I'm going to go home. Change and come back. Okay? Why? Because that stain is not good. Spiritually, I'm talking about an avon now. The neshama is white. The neshama is pure. We say this in the Birkot HaShachar. Elokai, neshama shenatata vi tehora, ata verata, ata yesarta, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה משמרה בקרבי, ואתה עתיד לתלה ממני, ועזב אותי עתיד לבוא. You know what did you say? I'll translate it for the benefit of the audience. Dear God, the soul that you injected in me, it's pure. Why? The Zohar Kadosh says, what is the neshama? 3 words. Heleb Eloka Mima'al is a small piece of heaven into the heart of a Jew. There is another song that says, the small piece of heaven in everyone's heart. Okay? I don't know why I'm singing too much today. Okay? Now, Ata Berata, you created the neshama. Ata Yesarta, you formulated the neshama. Ata Nefachta Bi, you injected it inside of me through the nostrils. Be'ata meshamera bekirbi, and you protect my neshama inside of me. That's another song that I'm not going to sing today. Be'ata atid litela mimeni, and you're going to take it away from me, has v'shalom, when the day of meeting the Creator comes. Ulahazira bi le'atid lavo. But I know that is only a temporary situation. Mashiach is coming, and I'm coming back, as the song says. I'm coming back. It's a Jewish song. Understand that all the songs that I display and share with you are all kosher and Jewish songs, even though some of them are in English.
No rock and roll.
No rock and roll. No. Kol zeman sheneshama bekirbi. That's another song by Moti Steinmetz. All the time that the soul is inside of me, modeh ani lefanecha, I'm thankful to you. And we know the end of the first paragraph of the Birkot HaShachar. And these are the 2 words of the Gemara of today. Ma'alin ba'kodesh. When it comes to strengthening God's relationship in your life, always trying to see what can I do better to connect. What can I do to enhance my connection? Why? Because the stronger Hamavdil, how many times you want to use Wi-Fi and suddenly you have no connection? Or your cell phone says limited bars, or the computer says unstable internet connection. You get frustrated because you could be in a Zoom meeting, and occasionally happens, okay? You know, I used to give the Zoom class from my home. Now, in the car sometimes. But now I know that in my home, certain areas where I sit, the signal is weak. So I move across and the signal is strong, okay? But what do we want? We want a strong signal. That means I want a strong connection. It's beautiful. What about godly connection? Do you take the free Wi-Fi or you take the real Wi-Fi?
Real one.
Masako Baruch. This is the class of today's Gemara. Climbing the ladder. I can add one more thing with your permission. At the end of prayers, that was something that we touched yesterday. Remember, we learned yesterday the dangers of envy and coveting and desire to be like someone else. We mentioned, I believe, at the end of the class, right? That there is one exception. King Solomon says that when it comes to spiritual matters, you're allowed to look up to someone and try to emulate them. And I'm not sure if I said this yesterday. If I said it, not a problem. But if I do not say it, I think it's going to be apropos. So you know, at the end of Alenu L'Shabeach, we say, Ki Hashem hu Elokim, Bashamayim Ma'al, Ve'al ha'aretz mitachad en od. This pasuk says, will come a day that a person once and for all, and society and humanity will understand that the entire essence of the world, when it comes to heavenly matters or physical matters, is all connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is nothing but God in the world. Sometimes you see people have a sign that says, En od milevado. En od milevado. There is nothing but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Beautiful pasuk from the Torah. But the books of Musar tells us that this pasuk also teaches us two mega lessons for our life. And one is connected to spirituality, and one is connected to materialistic aspect of life. So it says, Bashamayim min ma'al. When it comes to Irat Shamayim, when it comes to a godly connection, min ma'al, look up. Try to climb the ladder. Be'al ha'aretz. But when it comes to materialistic matters, mitahad. Look who has less than you, so you're able to count and cherish the blessings that you have. The problem that we have occasionally is that we do the opposite. We want to emulate someone that is financially and materialistically very, very successful, but spiritually very minimal. And if we look somebody who does more than what we do, sometimes as a defense mechanism, we make comments. I never heard such a thing. The Humra of the day, like somebody told me something, and I said, Mehila is not a minhag, it's a halacha. Sometimes people confuse between tradition and halacha. Tradition is important, but halacha is the true connector with Hashem. And obviously, minhagim, every community and every congregation has, different customs. The Syrian tradition in certain prayer is different than the Moroccan tradition in the prayers. But it's fine. The differences in tradition don't create a problem with the halakha. Sometimes are additions to the halakha. And that's what the Gemara of today is delivering, this beautiful, beautiful message, which we need to have it as a way of life. Because at the end of the day, the stronger our bonding with Hashem, the better the person does throughout the entire life. the Musar of today, I'm going to keep it very short, very powerful message, also related to some of the final moments that I spoke on this class, speaks about the danger of a person pursuing luxury constantly. Ahavat hata'anugim. Ta'avat hata'anugim. Ta'avat means the desire for pleasure. What does that mean for pleasure? It says, Ra'a mikol hamidot hara'ot. It says, we learn about jealousy, we learn about envy, we learn about desiring, and he's asking, what prompts all these negative character traits in the life of the person? What, suddenly one day you woke up and you say, okay, today I'm going to envy that person. No, it doesn't happen like that. How does it happen then? It says, first begins from the person themselves. Meaning to say, the person doesn't know what is the middle of the road in life. The person needs to go to an extreme. Now, extremes comes in two formats. One direction or the other direction. For example, when it comes to humility, what does it say? Go to the extreme. Yani become super humble, so then you come back to the middle of the road. But if you stay in the middle of the road to begin with, you're probably going to turn to become arrogant. That's what's written. Now, it says, if a person has this inner desire, for example, Esav was a fellow problematic. And not only because of his hatred towards Yaakov Avinu, that we already know this from birth, but throughout his life, if he saw something, he took it without asking permission, including wives, children, slaves, and money, including killing husbands in order to take wives. That was Esav. What do you think? Esav was a nice fellow? Esav was that type of attitude. Even though, according to many, he did teshuvah later in life, but throughout the Torah, we don't label Esav the Tzaddik. We say the opposite. And now, why do I bring Esav? Because that is exactly the message of the Musar. Bedome hu le'esav arasha. This was the personality of Esav. He saw it, he took it. The Gemara, or the Torah actually, brings an example about Esav concerning food. Remember Esav and food? The Pasuk says, Hal'aiteni na min ha'adom hazeh ki ayef anochi. Esav that day came from killing Nimrod, the famous Nimrod the king. Why did he kill him? Because Esav had the desire of the coat that Nimrod was wearing, that was attributed to Adam Arishon. And that was the coat that Esav eventually gives to his mother, Rivka, for safekeeping. And that's the garment that she gave to Yaakov to put on when he receives the berachot. Remember when the Pasuk says, your skin feels like Esav, but the tone of your speech is like Yaakov. Why? Because please and thank you didn't exist in the vocabulary of Esav. Esav would say to his father, eat so you bless me, hurry up. This was Esav. What Yaakov says, dear father, please sit down so I'm able to receive your holy blessing. Kum na, the Pasuk says. And then Ishaq says, who is this? Esav already suspected that something is going on here. Ishaq, because he's using please and thank you. And then, how did you find me so fast, the meat? Oh, because Hashem put it in my way. Do you think that Esav will talk this way? Esav will never speak this way. So the Pasuk says, that desperation that Esav displayed the day that he killed Nimrod, and that's why the Pasuk says, Behu ayef, and he was tired. I believe Rashi says, that day he killed, he committed adultery, he stole, he committed the worst averot, and he was exhausted, because the avon tires the person as well. And the Pasuk tells us, pour directly into my mouth. That's how Esav ate. Now, let's clarify one thing, that we don't, and I don't want anyone to walk out of this class to think, oh, you know what, from now on, we have to live in a shack, or we cannot dress nice, or we need to eat bread and water every day. That's not what the Musar of today is telling us. The Musar of today is telling us, be conscientious, especially when it comes to food. You don't need to eat out every night of the week, unless you really want to give your wife a break. That's nice. Ladies, don't take it the wrong way. But every night you go out to eat, and every night you spend X, Y, Z amount of money, that's not good.
If your wife doesn't cook, what do you do?
If your wife doesn't cook, that's a whole different shiur. Talk to me privately. I don't believe that your wife doesn't cook. Okay, now, sure, and maybe a person is on vacation, and the person wants to give the wife a break and goes out to eat. Let's clarify, there is nothing wrong to do that. But I think that the Musar of today is telling us is, don't overdo it when it comes to food. For example, there is a mitzvah from the Torah, a negative commandment from the Torah, which is debatable if it ever became a reality because of the many requirements to activate this commandment. It's called Ben Sorer Umoreh, the rebellious son. Now, how does the son becomes rebellious? Enenu shomeya bekol aviv uvkol imo. He does not listen to the parents educating him, and he committed a crime. What crime did this child commit? Stealing money to buy meat and wine. This is called Ben Sorer Umoreh Zolel Besobeh. That's what the Gemara explains. Now, I ask you a question. This child, the rebellious son, how old is he that committed this crime? Below bar mitzvah. So, if he did it below bar mitzvah, why are you punishing him? We know that up to the age of 20, there is no punishment from a halacha perspective. From 0 to bar or bat mitzvah, education. From bar or bat mitzvah till 20, you perform good deeds, negative deeds, etc. But no collection from Shamayim until the person turns 20. So how come that in this case, we activate judgment when he's below bar mitzvah? Short answer, because of his behavior. If he is below bar mitzvah and is stealing money to drink wine and to eat meat, this is the beginning of his downfall. So if today he's doing this crime, Another 6 months to a year, he's going to kill people because now he needs to satisfy his desperation for wine and meat. And the desperation of wine and meat, even though we may not have it, Baruch Hashem, but as we learned yesterday or 2 days ago, that there are people that are desperate for money because they need to keep up and they don't have it. So they want to keep up, they lie, they steal, they cheat. And then they get themselves into trouble. So then how do we circumvent all this? So first the Gemara says, rule number 1 in food, stay away from alcohol. Stay away from alcohol. The Gemara says, Lo tirve velo teheta. Don't become close to the alcohol and you will not come to commit averot. Why? Because alcoholism guarantees a change in the person's life. And I'm not talking about Pesach night that we have to drink 4 cups of wine, or the day of Purim that we drink a bit more than usual. There is no mitzvah in Purim to get drunk. Whoever tells you that is not understanding the halakha. The mitzvah is to drink a bit more in the day of Purim, to be happy, to sing, and to be mamash celebrating the day. Because if God forbid the person drinks more than usual and the person loses control of his behavior, you're not doing any mitzvah. You're doing a couple of averot. So that's why it says, first of all, and I repeat, it doesn't mean you cannot have a bit of wine in honor of Shabbat. But if God forbid the person becomes excessively meticulous when it comes to food, and not for health reasons. Not for health reasons. Sometimes you need to be very careful in what you eat. You may have allergies, you may have a medical condition. That's not what we are referring to. But if a person's food habits are super high and super expensive, so what do you think is going to do to your life? Not only you're giving the wrong example to your children, that you only flies first class. I had a case many years ago. A person, a lady, called me up for a shidduch. And she says, I'm looking for a first class husband. So in my mind, rabbinic mindset, okay, a good husband, midot tovot, derecheres, a nice fellow. I said, okay. And then I asked her, what are you looking in a first class husband? She tells me that he only flies first class.
لازم تسألها if she's in first class.
Have a nice day.
I said, I don't have anybody.
Thank you.
Although I tried to set it up with somebody, I tried somebody that I thought could be a potential candidate. But you may ask, why didn't you try to set it up? It says, because that mindset can ruin any man. If God forbid, this is how she lives. I only fly first class. I only wear chimichurri. Not chimichurri. Chimichurri. Not chimichurri, that's a sauce. Armani's, that's where the bagels come from. No Armani's. That's Armani's. Okay, let's not confuse. Okay, so imagine yourself what it does to the husband. Constant pressure. Constant pressure. Constant pressure, constant pressure. Guess what? His days are counted. And it's one of the handful of cases that I took a step back. Because I don't want to be responsible of setting someone knowing. I was happy that she was honest with me. I was very happy that she told me, Rabbi, this is what I need. I said, what if he flies business? first class only. I said, okay.
Some planes don't have first class.
I know. If the flight doesn't offer first class, so you go premier business,
Yeah.
that's I think American Airlines.
Today everybody private charter.
I know, okay, but Puede, this was the day, this was maybe 10 years ago, maybe even more. Okay, my good friends, we go back to the Gemara of Rabbi Ishmael. Count your blessings. Count your blessings and guarantee a happy life at all levels. At all levels. With marriage, with children. One detail that I did not say. If this is how parents live when they really cannot afford it, but just to keep up, what message are we giving to our children? That if it's not this level, it's not good? That's what the Mishnah says. My good friends, have a great day, everybody. Baruch Adonai Le'olam.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben